Hello, everyone. Welcome to Ready for Rome. This is our Rome orientation webinar, and we're all very happy that you're here. My name is Shelley Ruel. I'm the community manager for Italia Pass, and I'm joined by my colleague Loriane Filon, who is the Italia Pass Italy Experience Specialist. And today we're going to be giving you some information about Rome and how to get around here, and also some practical information about some tourist things to know. So to get started, I would like to give you just a little quick background about what is Italia Pass, because I think that many of you are here because you're Italia Rail customers. So we have a family of brands, the Italia brands. There's rail, tours, drive, and hotels. And since 1987, these brands have been working with millions of tourists who come to visit Italy. And our CEO and founder, Italia Rail CEO and founder, wanted to create a way to help all of his clients have the best trip to Italy ever. So he created Italia Pass. And it's a membership benefits program that costs $149, and you get $500 in value of the benefits. So that just gives you a little bit of background about what Italia Pass actually is. And as we go through our presentation today, you'll be getting a little bit more information about the pass in case it's something that you'd like to add to your vacation. All right, so just a little quick overview of what we're going to cover. Our presentation is about a half an hour, and then at the end, we're going to allow you to do live Q&A. So you'll be able to ask questions through the chat function at the end of our presentation. We open it for about 15 minutes, and any questions that we're not able to answer, I will answer offline and post those in the community. So we're going to talk about arriving at FCO, which is Fiumicino Airport, and how you get into the city center from there. And then we'll give you some information about the Italia Pass Lounge, which is at Rome Termini. That's the main train station here in Rome. I'm going to talk to you about how to ride public transport, and also about the restaurants, menus, and local customs, some things that might be a little bit different than what you're used to, so that you'll feel more at home when you are going out to eat here. And then we're going to talk to you about how to get a complimentary Coliseum entry and a $100 automatic refund for a tour. Then I'm going to give you some tips about how to avoid tourist traps, a couple extra local tips, and that Q&A that I told you about. And don't worry if we're going fast, because this is all being recorded, and I'm going to send you a link to the recording after. So to get started, I'm going to pass it to Loriane to talk to you about how to get into the city from the airport.
Hello, everyone. Thanks again for joining us today. So I'm going to give you some, as Shelley said, some pointers about how to get from FCO Airport to the center of Rome. As you can see on the slides there, it's pretty well indicated within the terminal. The first option that you have is to reach Roma Termini. Termini is the main train station in Rome by train. There are two types of trains that you can take. The first one is the Leonardo Express, which is a direct train to Termini station, and it costs about $16 on Italia Rail. And the second one is a local train that will get you to a couple of the smaller stations in Rome, such as Trastevere and Ostiense, and it's $10 on Italia Rail. So what you decide to choose will be based on your accommodations or what's easiest for you, obviously, once you get to the center of Rome, what will be easiest for you to get around. Both trains are considered to be regional trains, so you do not have to check, you do have to check in before boarding the train. And all of those check-in instructions will be on your confirmation email once you book the tickets. So it'll be really straightforward, nothing to worry about. Everything is explained once you book tickets with us on Italia Rail. You receive an email with all the instructions. We generally get a lot of questions whether you should book those tickets from FCO to the center of Rome in advance. I recommend doing so if you're going to be traveling during the somewhat high season, which starts around end of April, early May, up until, I would say, October. Definitely do book those in advance, just because you want to make sure that you have the right time that you want to be traveling at that is available to you. And that, I would say, to give yourself about an hour and a half to 2 hours from your landing time to the time that you take the train at the airport to get to the center of Rome. So about an hour and a half, 2 hours is what I generally recommend. That is for the trains. There's also taxis that you can take at the airport. And those have a fixed rate of 55 euros. And the other option is to take a shuttle bus or book a private transfer with us that takes you straight to your accommodations in Rome. So that's kind of handy if you're a big group, for example, and you don't want to take the taxi or multiple taxis. We can book a transfer for you, and you can reach out to us if you're a member, or even if you're not, you can reach out to us and we'll book your transfer. And yes, so all of that can be found on the Italia Tours website for the transfer, the information, or through your dedicated Italy experience specialist like myself if you're an Italia Pass member with us. As to renting a car, so that's a question that comes up a lot, if you should rent a car during your trip or not. And if you're going to be exploring some of the more remote areas of Italy, that can be a great option. But if you're only going to be visiting the main cities like Florence, Venice, Rome, or Milan, I don't recommend renting a car if it's especially if it's your first time in Italy, because driving a car within the cities can be quite tricky. There's a lot of permits, there's a lot of restrictions on operating a vehicle inside. Parking is tricky. So if you're only going to go between these cities, the best way is to take the train. However, if you decide to rent a car because you're exploring Italy, you can do so on italiadrive.com, which you can see on the slide. And if you're an Italia Pass member with us, you get a $10 discount if you send us your booking confirmation. And now for a great perk of being a member, it's the access to the lounge. The lounge is located at the train station, not the airport. But what's great about it is that if you have a train that is really, let's say, late after your checkout, you can leave your luggage with us because we do have free luggage storage. You can grab some refreshments, some espresso. Also, what is great about the lounge is our lounge attendants can answer some questions about your trip and check on your tickets, which is always handy. So if you want to relax, there are lots of options at the lounge, which is again located in Roma Termini, which is the train station in Rome. So you can book your visit ahead of time. If you're an Italia Pass member with us, we give you a code and you can book your free visit to the lounge. I will now hand it over to Shelley for some more information on public transport within the city.
Okay, thanks. So public transport here in Rome, the company is called ATAC. And we have 3 different types of public transport you can take. We have above ground buses. We have the underground, which is known as the metro. That's short for Metropolitana. That's the subway, and there's only 2 lines, A and B, and they only cross and intersect at one point, which is Termini, the main train station. So it's a very easy system to navigate. And there's also a couple of trams. They all operate under the same ticket. The tickets cost €1.50, so it's pretty economical compared to other large European cities, and they're time-based tickets. So that means that you don't have to worry about zones or how many rides you're taking. You just have to keep an eye on the time. So from the first moment you board whatever method of public transport is when the time starts, and it's 100 minutes. There's one exception to that, and that is that you get only one ride on the metro, only one subway ride, no matter where it falls within those 100 minutes. Once you exit the subway station after your ride, you can no longer go back in on that same ticket. The metro and many of the buses, now that there are a lot of them, are more modernized for the Jubilee year. They have a tap and go system for ticketing. So you just use your contactless payment card and you tap on the box at the turnstile or in the bus, and that will constitute your ticket. It will automatically take $1.50. It will debit your card, charge your charge card. The one thing to keep in mind is that you have to have a separate card for each rider, because that particular card or payment method, even if it's like a contactless on your phone, that counts as your ticket. So if an inspector were to come on the bus and ask to see your ticket, you would simply show them your payment method. Tickets are called biglietto, or plural is biglietti. And so if you don't use the tap and go system, you can buy a ticket. There's machines in the subway, and there are also paper tickets available at tabaccheria, which are the tobacconists, and at newsstands. And you'll see newsstands all throughout the city. So you just can buy tickets there, maybe put 1 or 2 in your wallet just to have handy in case you get on a bus that doesn't have the tap and go system. I wanted to tell you about a particular bus route that's both very helpful for tourists, but also something to be aware of. So bus 64 runs all the way from that main station we told you about, Termini, all the way across the city center over to the Vatican. So it's a super convenient route if you want to see all the main sites. It kind of hits most of the main points. The metro doesn't really cross in the super historic center, like they're still building a metro C line. You can get to the Colosseum with the metro on the B line, and you can get over to the Vatican, to St. Peter's, close to St. Peter's on the A line. However, to cross through the main city center, you'll need to take a bus. The one thing I would make you aware of with bus 64 is that because of the fact that it's very popular with tourists, it's always very popular also with pickpockets. Now, if you're coming this time of year, it's low season, so you're not going to have to worry too much about the crowds. However, it's always a good idea if you're in a crowded space, whether it's bus 64, any other tourist area, if there's a big crowd, especially when people are close, right? So that's usually in public transport when there's not a lot of room to move around. The pickpockets take advantage of when people are close, because when people are being jostled, it's very easy to slip items out of people's bags and they don't feel it. They're quite skilled, unfortunately. But it's very, very easy to avoid. I've been living in Rome for over 20 years, almost 23 years now, and knock on wood, I've never been pickpocketed. And the reason is because I'm very aware of my belongings. So you can just do that too. If you have a bag, just wear it like across your chest, or if you have a backpack, you don't have to wear it on the front everywhere you go, but if you're in a super crowded area, that can be helpful if you have valuables that you want to keep an eye on. Wallets, make sure they're like in your coat pocket or in your front pocket, not in your back pocket. It's just common sense. Rome is a very safe city. Just petty crime can be an issue, but mostly for distracted tourists. And I know that you guys aren't going to be distracted. So that's the way to avoid getting pickpocketed. Now I'm going to talk about something really fun. I hope you're going to enjoy all of our delicious, authentic Roman food here. A couple things I want to point out about restaurants that might be different for you if you've never traveled here to Italy before, you've never traveled to some European cities where they eat a little bit later. We eat lunch starting around 1:30, and dinner around 8:30. So if you want to eat earlier, if you're going to a local Roman restaurant where Romans eat, it's probably not going to be open earlier than that, or at least maybe 7:30, but not much earlier. However, if you really have, a need to eat at an earlier time, it's not like you're not going to find any restaurants open. There's lots of restaurants in the touristy areas that remain open all day long, and that's no problem. But what I'm talking about is if you want to go where the locals eat, just be aware that the dinner times are a little bit shifted, a little bit later than what we're used to, say, in North America, or at least in the US, Canada. People ask me a lot about tips. Do I need to leave a tip? Because, like in the United States, it's expected to leave 20%, I think is pretty common nowadays. And it might feel strange here, but there's no tipping required because the waitstaff earns a full salary. So as a courtesy, sometimes we might leave €1 per person, round up, these types of things, but you really don't need to leave a tip. It's not expected. Same goes for taxis. So menus, I want to tell you a little quickly about the menus. Two main types of restaurants you're going to run into here in Rome. One is ristorante, which you could probably guess means restaurant, and the other one is pizzeria. And the reason I point that out is because not all ristoranti are necessarily going to offer pizza. So if you want a Roman pizza, which is a specific style of pizza, it's a thin crust, usually wood-fired oven pizza, you're going to want to look for a pizzeria because that's where you can have a sit-down pizza dinner. In the bullet points there under ristorante, I wrote antipasto, primo, and secondo because those are the different courses that are going to be available on the menu. So appetizers, first courses are your pasta dishes or risotto, a rice dish. Sometimes you can find that on the menu. And secondo is going to be meat dishes. So like your chicken, steak, maybe fish. And you don't have to order from all of those, and you can mix and match. So don't worry, you don't have to necessarily go down the line and order from every single category. Just pick and choose whatever you want. The pizzeria is, like I said, the sit-down pizza restaurant. And the reason I indicate sit down is because then there's also pizza al taglio, which basically literally means cut pizza. So it's more like a street food pizza. So when you're walking around the city, you're going to see these places that have pizza behind like a glass counter. And in those places, you can actually go up, indicate how much. The person cutting the pizza will kind of use their hands to ask you how much you want. There's all different types. And then they're going to weigh it. It's sold by weight. And then I would say you'll probably spend per person between 5 and maybe not even 10. It depends on where you're at, if it's a really pricey place downtown, but you can usually get a few pieces for €5, and they don't sell it by the slice, so you have to indicate how much you want. The reason I put toppings here, oh, and you can eat it walking. Like you can either get it put in a box or just eat it to go walking like street food. Now, the reason I put toppings is because some people don't know that here in Rome, we don't order our pizzas to share at the table with everyone deciding together what toppings to put on it. Pizzas have predetermined topping combinations and names. So for example, the simplest one is the margherita. It's just a cheese pizza. And everyone orders their own individual pizza. But don't worry because they're very, very thin crust. It comes individual. It's on a plate, like it fills a whole plate, but it's not pre-cut. So just scan the menu and see what topping combination looks best to you, and then that's how it works. So, and the fritti you see in that picture on the bottom right-hand corner, those are called supplì. That's a Roman specialty, and it's eaten as an appetizer before pizza. So either in a sit-down pizza restaurant or at Pizza al Taglio, you can usually find it. It's a really good snack food if you're walking around the city. It usually costs between €1 and €1.50. So it's a fried rice ball. Basically, as you can see in the picture, they take rice and they mix it with ragu. So it's like a tomato meat sauce. And then they make a ball out of it. And the inside, they put a piece of mozzarella, and then they bread it, and then they deep fry it. So the mozzarella gets really melty. And it's a really nice local, authentic appetizer that I would encourage you to give a try because you probably won't find it in many other cities, if any other cities. It's similar to arancino, but that's in Sicily. Last but not least, coffee, another Roman specialty. Hopefully you'll all get brave and go try coffee at the coffee bar. It's called Il Bar, and that just means coffee bar. And the way it works is that you go up first to the register and you pay for whatever you want to order at the coffee bar. So you'll say a cafe, for example, but just beware that if you say a cafe, that means to them espresso. And you can also say espresso, they'll understand that. But if you're saying cafe and you're thinking that's coffee, like a mug of coffee or cup of coffee, that's not, it's an espresso. So order a cafe or whatever type of coffee that you want. And then you're going to pay and then take the receipt over to the counter, and you'll tell the barista what you ordered, and then they'll make that for you, and you'll drink it standing up at the bar. Some bars have tables where you can sit, but definitely check with the person at the cash register because sometimes there's a supplement. Sometimes it's like even 30% extra to sit down at a table, and that's table service, so they should be bringing it out to you. Cappuccino is for breakfast. A lot of people do like to have a cappuccino in the United States, at least after dinner. That's not traditional here. Some restaurants maybe won't even have milk to prepare one for you. At least the Roman restaurants most likely won't. And they will not offer it to you. They will offer you an espresso because that's common to have an espresso after dinner. The best places to have espresso, there's two that are very, very famous, and I've listed those in a resources list that I'm going to provide you in the email that I'm going to send out after our presentation today. So you can try them both downtown and see which one that you like best. All right, next, I'm going to pass it back to Lorianne to talk to you about a couple of the sites.
Great, thank you. So I hope you'll get to see some of the best sites in Rome when you're visiting. What's great is that Italian Pass members do get a free skip the line ticket of a $22 value to access the Colosseum, the Roman Forum, and Palatine Hill. We also have some great tours of the sites in Rome. So walking tours, Vatican tours, where you can see the St. Peter's Dome, St. Peter's Basilica. It's really a great way to make the most out of your time there. And Italia Pass members, as you can see on screen, get $100 refund on any tour that they book. And then if you book any subsequent tours, you'll get a 10% discount. I highly recommend booking these tours even during low season, and especially for the Vatican ahead of time. As soon as you know when you're going to be visiting Rome, I recommend going straight to italiatours.com and looking at which tours are available, because the Vatican tours do tend to go very fast. And as I'm sure you're aware, this year is a Jubilee year. So some of these availabilities are going to be limited. So I recommend booking either whether you're visiting this winter or this summer as soon as you're able to. And if you have any questions, of course, we're here to answer them. Now for a little bit about our other great product, which is Italy Magazine. And as an Italia Pass member, you do get a subscription to our Italy magazine, which gives you tips on travel. It gives you tips on, food while you're in Italy, even how to plan your trip a little bit. And it does have some great seasonal versions of the magazine, which, like this one that you can see on the Vatican City and the Jubilee Year edition. Each edition is a little special with some specific information on what's going on in Italy at that time. So it's a really great way to get some information on your trip and what's great to do there. And now I'm going to pass it on back to Shelly to give you some specific advice on what to avoid on your trip there.
Okay, so I call this avoiding tourist traps because you want to come here and be like a local. So the first thing is restaurants. If you see pictures on the menu, then you can know for sure that that's not an authentic Roman local restaurant because obviously the Romans don't need pictures to show them what they're going to order. And also what I call promoters. You're going to see this a lot in the downtown area where there's lots of tourists. There will be people standing outside the restaurant trying to like usher you in and encourage you to come into their restaurant. Obviously, a local restaurant doesn't need to do that because the locals know where they want to eat and they don't need to be pulled inside. Now, that being said, are you going to have a terrible meal at a restaurant that has these things? Probably not. Italian food is pretty decent anywhere you go. However, if you really want to seek out an authentic experience and this is what you're seeing, then just go somewhere else that's not so touristy and you'll probably find a more off the beaten path restaurant that's more authentic. Next, you see this photo in the middle. There's this gladiator coming down Lungo Tevere, which is the road right by the river. I took this photo. I saw this guy and it just cracked me up. There are these people that dress up as gladiators in front of the Colosseum and they go there to take pictures with tourists. I'm not sure if they're out too much in January because it's low season, but if you do encounter one and you want to get a photo, it can be a tourist trap because if you don't ask how much it costs in advance, they can maybe surprise you with a high price. I don't know. I've never asked how much it costs. I've heard around 10 euros, but I just want to make you aware that they're not just trying to be friendly. They're actually trying to make money. So just be aware of that if that's something that you want to do. Same goes for these guys, and as you see in the bottom right-hand corner, you'll see a lot of, especially in the nightlife at nighttime in the nightlife areas. So for example, the neighborhood of Trastevere, where a lot of people go out for dinner. There are a lot of gentlemen that walk around with these big bunches of roses. And what they'll try to do is like give it to you and say, look, it's a gift. And once it's in your hand, then they try to get you to pay. I think the psychology is once you're holding it, you feel obligated to pay for it. But it's just easy to avoid. You just walk right by them. There's plenty of other tourists that they can target. And if you want to buy flowers, there's lots and lots and lots of flower stands all throughout the city. So no shortage of that. And you can get some beautiful flowers that way. Last but not least, gelato. I hope that you're going to enjoy our delicious gelato here, but a couple of dead giveaways to a gelato that's not super authentic or homemade, let's say. If you see gelato like the one in that picture where it's just like super overflowing over the top of the tub, then that means that they've whipped a bunch of extra air in it to kind of make it look showy, and an actual gelato shop that's authentic would never do that. In fact, some gelato shops, you may not even see the gelato. It might be it might have like a metal lid on top of the tub, and that's a really good sign that it's authentic and very, very homemade. If it has overly bright colors, that's also a dead giveaway because that's artificial color, and good authentic gelato will never use artificial colors or flavors. It's very fresh. Last but not least, a couple of local tips to let you know about Rome. So this fountain you see here in the photo, we are famous for our nasoni. That means big noses. I think it's because of the spigot, the way it's shaped. These fountains are all throughout the city. The water comes from deep underground springs. It comes out ice cold. So there's no need to buy plastic water bottles. You can just use a refillable bottle, and they're located all around the city. And in the resources list I'm going to provide, I'm also going to send you an app for your smartphone that is from the water utility here in Rome that will show you where all the nasoni are located, so you know where your next refill is going to be. And if you want to be super, super local, you can see how the water's pouring out. There's no on-off. It just pours continuously. If you put your thumb and plug the spigot, there's a little hole on top and it will start streaming out like a drinking fountain. And so Romans will often do that if they don't have a bottle, just to dip down and get a drink like a drinking fountain. However, make sure that you look at who's walking by, because if you do that and it sprays, you could hit somebody. So just be careful of that. And last but not least, have an aperitivo. So you may know of the iconic aperitivo that you see in this photo, which is the Aperol Spritz. An aperitivo starts around 6:30. It's like a pre-dinner snack and drink time, and it's a social time. It's a lot of fun. And places like Meccanismo, which you see in the photo, have a really nice spread of snackies with a drink for like 10 euros. You could pretty much almost make a dinner out of it. And the Aperol Spritz has a very low alcohol content, but there are also lots of drinks that have no alcohol whatsoever. So you can get it alcohol or non, but it's a fun local tradition. So I would encourage you. You can do that in any coffee bar in the evening. You can do a simple aperitivo. You could ask them for like a glass of Prosecco. In my neighborhood, which is outside the city center, but it's like 4 euros. It's a very economical option. If you're in a very high touristy area, it could go anywhere up to 10 probably. And they might give you even just potato chips. It's kind of funny, but so try an aperitivo. That's a fun local tradition. All right, so that wraps up our informational presentation. Like I said, I'm going to send you an email, since for everyone who registered, you're going to get an email from me that's going to have a link to the resources that I talked about, a recap of the Q&A that we're about to hold, and this recording of this webinar in case you want to go back and review any of the points that maybe we talked too fast through. And you can also visit italiapass.com and click on community. And actually, I think that's changed. If you go, you'll have to go to community.italiapass.com, because I think that link to community is no longer there on the main website. However, it's really easy to find Ready for Rome orientation under Italy travel planning. The resources are a page that stays up there, but I'm going to also send you that link. This is just if you want to go in advance before you get the email. So at this point, I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and anyone who wants to ask a question can go into the icons on the bottom of your screen. There should be an icon that says Q&A with a question mark. If you click on that, you can type a question into the Q&A box, and Lorianne are available to answer any questions that you have. And if no questions come through right now, don't worry. If something comes up later on, feel free to just come by the community, type in your question, and I will answer that for you over there.
Wait.
So I'm not seeing any questions, and because it's low season, we have a pretty low turnout today. So I just wanted to thank everybody who did stop by and join today, and be looking for that email in your inbox. And again, if any questions come up later on, feel free to reach out to us. Thanks a lot for attending today, and buon viaggio.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.